What's going on, y'all? How's everybody been doing? So just a recap on how the week's been going. So I did run, the 4th of July, did a 600 plus mile run and ran through the weekend. Started on Sunday. I was in ATB. They sent me from Atlanta to Fort Smith, 678 miles, probably the longest run of my whole career. Never ran that hard. Following day went from Fort Smith to Little Rock and then over to Dallas. The day after that, Dallas to Birmingham. The day after that, Birmingham to Mobile, then to Pensacola, and then to Dothan. And not sure where I'll be going tonight, but I imagine I'll probably go to either Birmingham, Val, and then somewhere from there. But in this video, we're pretty much just going to talk about some pros and cons of being scheduled versus wild, which side makes more, things like that. And since I'll probably be speaking on the company, let me just go ahead and say I am not a spokesperson for the company. I'm just a driver stating my own personal views and opinions. So let me just throw this out here first and foremost. Neither side makes more than the other. So if you're scheduled, that doesn't mean you're going to make more than wild. If you're wild, you're not going to make more than scheduled. It's just really going to just depend on the bid sheet. We have some fast turn runs that are more miles than laydowns, and we have some laydowns that are more than the fast turns. So I think that proves my point. And let me just throw this out here as well. You don't have to be low in seniority to not have a scheduled run. Some drivers just prefer to run wild. There's nothing wrong with that. The same way some drivers prefer to be scheduled. So let's talk about the scheduled side. So if you're somebody that, and by the way, these runs again are just going to depend on where you sit in seniority. So it's not like you're just going to come to Southeastern and say, oh, I want to be scheduled, or oh, I want to be wild. It just depends again on where you sit in seniority. So if you're on the schedule side, if you're somebody that likes to go to the same place, you're content with the same miles, you pretty much like the same routine, then the fast turn or the scheduled laydown might be the route to go. And I made a video a while back on the different types of line haul positions that we have. I'll link that in the description, so just check that out. That way you're not confused when I say 3 2s or 2.5 or system. That way you kind of have an idea. But again, if you're content with that, then the schedule side is for you. Now, a con to that is, let's just say you fast turn or you lay down in a place where maybe they get bad winters, for example. Like if Memphis gets a lot of snow or ice, or if the city gets shut down, then if that's your midpoint or your laydown, then you're not going to be able to go there. So what'll happen is you might find yourself either at the house, or unless they just have extra freight and they can send you elsewhere. But in an instant like that, you might find yourself at home. That's a con. Another con to the fast turn side is if you get stuck on a crappy fast turn run, then you're stuck on that. And what I'm getting at is, if you don't bid on a fast turn with a wild back, meaning we have some fast turns where you might midpoint and then they might send you to other terminals. They might bounce you around before you go home. If you have just a regular fast turn, you're not going to get any more miles than what's on that bid sheet, unless a miracle happens or the interstate gets shut down. But if you bid on a 500-mile fast turn, you can expect 500 miles every night. Vice versa on the laydown side. So for example, if you bid on an Orlando to Columbia, South Carolina, then you're gonna go to Orlando, then Jackson, then Columbia, and then vice versa. And then on the flip side of that, if you have a 2.5 run, that every Tuesday and Thursday you're gonna lay down, and every Friday you're gonna fast turn with the driver that runs opposite of you. Another pro to being scheduled on the laydown side is not really having to worry about where you're gonna lay down at. Meaning we have some bid runs that will lay down at a bunkhouse, because we have terminals that have bunkhouses, and then we have some that'll go to a hotel. Perfect example, we have an Orlando to Dalton. they'll lay in the bunkhouse, and then the Dalton driver that comes down to Orlando will lay in the Orlando bunkhouse. On the flip side of that, we have a Orlando to Mobile, where you'll go to a hotel since they don't have a bunkhouse. All right, now let's talk about some cons, some pros and cons on the wild side. And again, for the wild, you have wild fast turns, you have wild 2.5s, and then you have wild 3.2s. Now, a pro to the wild is you have more variety of places you can go to. Like me, for example, your boy's been everywhere. I haven't been as far out as Texas. I was just in Texas. So I would say you have more opportunities to go more places, more opportunities for more miles. Now there is a con to being wild. If you're somebody that doesn't like the inconsistent checks, now I'm gonna tell you're gonna get miles, don't get me wrong, but one week you might run 2,100 miles, 2,200 miles, then the following week you might run 2,800 miles, you might even get 3,000 miles. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just tell you, it can be hard to get 3,000 plus miles unless you work an extra day. So I don't want you to think you're just gonna run wild here and get 3,500 miles, because it's probably not gonna happen unless you work an extra day. But so I guess that's a con, the inconsistent paychecks. But if you're somebody, that doesn't mind going to different places, then the wild side is for you. Now, I'll say a con though of wild is, the delay, especially when it comes to these break balls. Now, there is a pro and a con to that. The pro to the delay is, we are compensated after 45 minutes of waiting. But in my opinion, a con to that is, if you end up waiting at some of these break balls, like for example, if I'm in Birmingham and I wait 3 hours in Birmingham, that kind of limits the potential miles I could have got versus if I would have got a straight shot run, or if I could have just turned and burned out of the break ball, And if you don't understand what I'm saying, it's like, let's say I drive 300 miles and then they send me to a break bulk and I have to wait maybe 2 hours. By the time I get a load out of there, it might be early in the morning. And then by the time I get to that terminal, that's miles that I probably could have got if I wasn't delayed. Now, typically, the scheduled drivers, when it comes to these break bulks, a lot of times they're going to get out first, because they're scheduled. So for example, let's just say, we'll use this perfect example because this happens often. Let's just say I'm in Birmingham and I'm going down from Birmingham to maybe Mobile, perfect example. So if I'm in Birmingham and there's a Mobile driver there, keep in mind that Mobile driver, he's scheduled. So he's gonna get out with that Mobile set before me because I'm wild. So I'll get that second one and I'll end up probably waiting on the break bulk closeout. So, you could look at that however you want. That could be a pro and a con, because the pro is, yes, I'm getting compensated, but, the con is, the wait. But another con to the wild side is finding, places to stay, with these hotels. Now, like I said earlier, the scheduled guys, they already have that arranged. But since I'm not scheduled, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. At the start of my shift, I don't know where I'm going to end my day. I never know how many terminals I'm going to hit. I might get a direct run where I hit one terminal, or there's been times where I'm hitting maybe 4 or 5 terminals a night. So you never really know when you're done until they say, all right, you're going to bed. So there are times where I find myself having trouble finding, a hotel, because, if I was scheduled, I would be able to, book that out. I would tell them, hey, I need a room for Tuesday and Thursday each week, for the duration of this bid. I'm trying to think, what other pros and cons could I give y'all? That's pretty much all I got now off the top of my head, but if I think any more, of course, I might make a follow-up to this, but I'm going to wrap this up. So as I always tell y'all, thank you to all my day one subscribers. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Appreciate all y'all. And as I always tell y'all, y'all take it easy and y'all stay safe.